Hello everyone, welcome to the first Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer video. This and probably a lot of other videos are going to be focused on free-for-alls, at least for the initial kind of burst of videos, because it's the new multiplayer mode for this game and I enjoy them. This is actually a replay of the very first one that I played. I am bringing the High Elves. Off to my left we have Dark Elves, across from me Lizards, and then off to my right, which I'm going to be fighting first, is the Skaven Hordes. For my army, the front line here is made up of Lothran Sea Guards with shields. These are archers that are also very durable in melee and actually kind of deadly in melee if you are a large creature. You can see here that their bonus versus large is a 16 against large creatures, so they are a pretty good spear unit that also doubles up as a bow unit, or you can, I guess, reverse that. And with their martial prowess on, that is why you can see that they have a 52 in melee defense, and they are 750, I think? With the shield version, or maybe it's 800. I think it's 750. But the rundown is they are a really good archer unit that the High Elves have that can withstand cav charges because they even have charge defense against large. And I think you're going to be seeing these units quite a lot, especially in multiplayer. In front of them, we have the one artillery piece belonging to the High Elves, which is going to be the Eagle Claw Bow Thrower. This thing is pretty cool because it has two different firing modes, one for anti-large and then one that is kind of like a shotgun round that focuses against infantry. So that is a pretty cool unit. Behind them, we have the two actual infantry units here. We have the Sword Masters of Hoeth, which are one of their most expensive units. 1,300, I believe, is their cost, and these are some very bruisey, great sword infantry that can also block arrows. You can see they have the shielded icon there. These guys are no joke. They are very expensive, but they are also very good, and oh my goodness. They just look awesome. Then over here, flanking our leadership, is the White Lions of Thrace. I thought it was the White Lions of Thrace with a T. Let me know if that is how you pronounce it and they just spell it with a C, because I honestly thought it was Thrace. And then off to the very side over here, we have some cheapy cav in the Illyrian Reavers. These are, like as I said, pretty cheap, but with the High Elf buff of martial prowess, they are actually pretty good for their price, at least in the initial shock of the battle, because when their hit points drop below 50%, then that melee defense will drop down to a 24, and their attack becomes a 30, but still, they are very cheap, and I just had enough money left over to bring some kind of cav, and there they are. The High Elves definitely have better cav than this, but I did not bring him in this battle. And then flying above that is one of their best dragons, or the best dragon, the Star Dragon, with very good melee stats, pretty good hit points, and very high damage. And with the breath weapons, which are pretty devastating, these dragons are pretty good. The dragons with the breath weapons, definite improvement over dragons in Total War Warhammer 1. I think they are now actually worth the cost. They have 3 charges of their breath, and each breath, if hit in a decent blobbed infantry, can do a ton of damage. Actually, they also do a pretty good amount of damage just to single targets as well. Leadership wise though, we are being led by Teclis, with most of his spells being the Chain Lightning, Flaming Sword of Ruin, Flock of Doom, and the Regrowth. So it's pretty cool. He gets access to so many different lores, because I believe lore wise the High Elves have access to everything. And I think instead of giving Teclis literally every single lore, which may be more lore appropriate, for game balancing reasons, they just gave them a spell from a lot of different lores, which I kind of like the way that plays. But besides that, they also share 3 different passives from 3 different lores. The Shield of Sapphire is the passive for the High lore, one of the new lores in the game. Then you can see we have Wild Heart and then Kindle Flame as well. So he has 3 different passives. He also has, of course, Martial Prowess, and an access to a lot of actually pretty good spells. Then over here we have a unique item, the Potion of Kairoy, which is a 9-second regeneration and damage resistance buff that also extends his ability recharge time by 30 seconds, but it can't keep him alive a little longer. And then this is actually a spell, I believe, from the High lore, but Teclis just gets it as an ability. He gets 2 charges of Kane's Ring of Fury, which is the Phoenix spell that you've probably seen in multiple videos, and does a lot of damage. His bodyguards today are 2 of the Nobles, which they are anti-large, armor-piercing focused, and also they look kind of badass. They kind of just remind me of Dynasty Warriors, because they're on a horse, and they're carrying a 2-handed weapon halberd, but just one-handed, and I just think Dynasty Warriors when I see these 2. But they are really good combat stats, and especially together, they can do a lot of good damage, and they I brought them with a 12% missile resistance aura around them as well. And that is going to be my army. I'm going to be facing off, first off, against the Skaven Hordes, and the Lizards and Dark Elves are going to be fighting each other. So for the Skaven, we have in the very front the Hell Pit Abomination, which is, I don't know what the hell happened to this thing as it was growing up, but oh boy, it looks crazy, it is crazy. Just look at this thing. Like, just look at this thing. Look at all the little moving pieces. Look at this. Like, what is this? It looks cool. Whatever the hell it is. In terms of power, I believe it is going to be up there with the Shaggoths of the Chaos faction. I haven't been able to test that, because I can't fight as a Chaos faction in this game yet, but I'm pretty sure they are going to be about on par with those. Behind them, we have a whole slew of the Skaven Slave Slinger version. These are very, very cheap. I think 200 in cost. Missile infantry. As you can see, their missile damage is only 10, but in such a great number, those little slings kind of do add up. So they have a whole front line of Skaven slaves. Behind those, we have the clan rats, which are kind of just your very basic infantry. They have pretty decent stats, and they are in a very high number for the cost as well. I think the clan rats are a nice meat shield and can also kind of put up a fight against very low infantry. And then behind those, we have 4 units of the Storm Vermin shield and sword variants. So there is another variant with the halberds, but the enemy did not bring any of those. Instead, they brought these heavily armored sword and shield versions. They have decent melee stats for their cost. They are the kind of bruisers and the toughest infantry you're going to get as the Skaven, also with the highest morale. I have not actually tried them yet, so I can't say whether or not I think they're great or not, but they seem okay for the amount of costs that you put into them. And then behind those, for the rest of the infantry, we have the Plague Monk Censer Bearers. These are very, very expensive, but they also provide a leadership debuff on their melee attacks, and they are also magical and armor-piercing focused. They also do come with Frenzy and Immune to Psychology and a physical resistance of 15 or 30? 15%. But you can see they only have 10 armor, so even with that 15% physical resistance, these are not going to be able to withstand much of a focus beating, especially from archers, but they can definitely deal a beating. Leadership for this army is going to be riding one of the coolest units, I think, in this game. It's a Rat Ogre pulling the chain for a bell that the actual leader is riding on, this Grey Seer of what, Plague? Yeah, Plague. So this is the Plague Grey Seer, and they are just having a grand old time riding this bell on this unique mount that they have, and yeah, it looks awesome. This is one of my new favorite units. Not necessarily in terms of power, but just because it looks awesome, and this dude is just having so much. Look at this dude. Wouldn't you want to be this guy? He's like, hell yeah, I'm on a bell, man. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. But anyway, that is the Skaven army that I'm going to be facing off against today. There are a lot of rats, and we have a very small army, but we're going to see if we can pull it out. And then, of course, there is the other battle that's going to be taking place, but I will actually do that here in a little bit. So, starting out, I'm going to send off our Star Dragon to try and find a target for the breath weapon, because I wanted to see it in action, because again, this is my first multiplayer match, and I had yet to use a dragon. I'm going to try and pick out a Storm Vermin, because they are going to be one of the toughest targets that the enemy brings against me, minus their Hell Pit Abomination, of course, which is another tough monstrous creature. Over here, I could not resist getting a Flock of Doom from Teclis, and then there goes our breath weapon. Pretty good damage from the breath weapon. And up here, I forgot to mention, in free-for-all, it is a point-based game. Points are generated by the amount of damage you do, so it is pretty imperative that you do damage and not sit in a corner or something and let everyone else fight each other. You do need to be pretty active in free-for-alls. Over here, we're going to try and isolate this clan rat who is out a little ahead of their Storm Vermin brethren with the Dragon, Teclis, and the Nobles. And they're going to be running pretty quick. After that, the Grey Seer is also a little bit out of position, so we're just going to charge him with the anti-large Nobles and Teclis. And you're going to see, on the charge alone, they have already done a lot of good damage, because the Grey Seer is not necessarily a tanking unit. Over there goes the Phoenix on this massive group of Slingers and Storm Vermin, and followed through there with a, what is this, Chain Lightning from Teclis. I just couldn't resist doing the damage to all of these poor little rats. By the time that spell is done, you can see we've almost already taken out the Grey Seer, the Hell Pit Abomination, and the flanking clan rats are still not even in position yet. This one is going to start attacking one of our Lothran Sea Guard, who have just been kind of sitting back here peppering the Skaven forces. And now Teclis and the Noble are dealing with Storm Vermin and the Plague Among Censer Bearers. But right behind them we have my Sword Masters of Hoeth going at it with the Storm Vermin. And they are just wreaking havoc. Storm Vermin are pretty tanky as rats go, but the Sword Masters of Hoeth are just really good. And then over here we have the White Lions taking it to another Storm Vermin. They are anti-armor focused with their axes, and so they are tearing into these Storm Vermin as well. Another Flock of Doom going around Teclis because they are bunching up around him. Meanwhile, over here on the flank, we do have the Hell Pit Abomination that's getting peppered to death by 2 of our Lothran Sea Guard back here. And the other one is holding them in place and doing anti-large damage because remember, they have a, I believe it's a 16 bonus against anti-large, or large units. So they are just doing a lot of good damage. And now the Dragon is down there too doing damage as well. My Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower is being routed or being taken out by these clan rats, but that's okay. It will survive this fight. You can see that the rats are actually going to do an entire massive chain route within moments. Because they bunched up right here, allowing me to hit them with multiple AoE spells. By the way, I think AoE spells are going to be one of like the key things in free-for-alls. Even Vortex spells, even though they're still kind of unreliable. If you just put that into two enemy armies, like who cares? It's going to get a ton of damage. But anyway, you can see right now, by wiping out the Skaven army, I've generated 12,000 points at this point in the battle, and I didn't even use my Lyrian Reavers. I put them over here to try and do a flanking charge on the Clan Rats skirmishers when they were free, but I didn't need to, because the Clan Rats routed pretty quickly. And we got a massive rout over here as well. So the damage that I have taken is very little damage on my leadership. Our Swordmasters took a little bit, and then this Lothran Seaguard, which is holding off a Helmet Abomination, took a little bit. Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower is still relatively fine, and you can see these units are fine, and the Krace, or White Lions of Krace, are also still relatively fine. So the Skaven Horde has been defeated, and I'm going to show this battle now from what's happening with the Dark Elves and the Lizards. So, for the forces of the Dark Elves, their front line is made up of 3 Dread Spears, which are going to be your basic spear infantry, and a Death Hag, which is one of the heroes of the Dark Elves, but they also have this mount option, which gives them this crazy chariot thing. The chariot also allows you to give Fury of Cain to an allied unit, which will make them rampage, which means you cannot give them orders, but it does give them these buffs, the melee attack charge bonus and weapon damage for 57 seconds. On top of that, the Death Hag naturally, and even with this chariot, has the Witch Brew, which can give themselves that buff, and they will also go on a rampage. They have 3 charges of that. It has Frenzy, and then a physical resistance aura around it, encouraging aura, fear and terror. This thing is pretty nasty, and that's their front line. Behind that, they are being led by Malekith, not on any mount though. He can't be on a dragon, horse, and a dark Pegasus? I don't know for certain, don't quote me on that. But here's Malekith. He is a pretty good duelist that also has access to a bunch of spells. You can see they took one of the Vortex of Blade Winds, which I'm sure you've seen before. It's a giant Vortex of Blades. It is a pretty effective spell. We also have Chill Wind, which is a pretty good wind spell that can apply Frostbite, so you can slow enemy units. It does decent enough damage for the cost. And then we have Power of Darkness, which you will give on yourself or an ally. It will drain them of hit points, but increase your power reserves and recharge rate. So that's also another cool little feature that the Dark Elves have, and that's Malekith. Then he is going to be flanked by, I believe, 3 in total of these Reaper Bolt Throwers, which function like the High Elf version, which is going to be, they have an anti-infantry and an anti-large, basically, versions. You can switch them on and off as you want. Also, there are going to be 2 Blackguards of Nakaron, which are going to be their elite halberd infantry, and they look pretty cool. One over here, then one over there. And then in the back right here, we have Dark Shards with shields. It's their crossbow, repeater crossbows, I should say. They fire, I think, 2 bolts per shot. Let's see. Yeah, 2 bolts per shot. They are shielded, and they can get an unshielded version as well. And they are just pretty nasty anti-armor crossbow units. Like, they're pretty cool. For the Lizards, you can see that they are going to have a lot of Saurus warriors. On the flank here, we have a couple Saurus warriors with spears and shields. Yeah, spears and shields. Then on the flank here, you can see we have some Cold One Riders, one of the 3 cav that they have available. This is going to be their anti-armor. They do have an anti-large version, and then the Horned ones, which are like their elite cav. Then over here, we have 2 Bastiladons, or I'm sorry, Feral Bastiladons, which can go on a rampage, and they just do nice AoE, anti-armor, anti-infantry damage. Main line over here is going to be made up of Saurus warriors with shields. These are the non-spear version. They are better in just melee against other infantry, basically. Being led by a Slan Mage Priest of the High Lore. So they have access to the High Lore spells, and they're a frog that sits on a floating throne. And that's, I don't know, that's pretty cool. He's also flanked by a Skink Priest of the Beast, which means they have access to the Beast lore. Then on this flank, we have 2 additional Saurus with spears, and then flying above them, we have 2 Pterodon Riders, which are going to be able to throw javelins and drop a round of rocks on enemies right below them, kind of like the Dwarven Gyrocopters. There is another version of the Pterodon Riders that come with Fire Bolos, which kind of act like Grenadiers? That's what they're called, right? For the Empire, the Grenade Cav. I think those are definitely the cooler version of the Pterodon Riders, but these are not those. And so the Lizard and the Dark Elf are going to be going into a 1v1. You can see that these Saurus with shields are already getting peppered by the 3 Reaper Bolt Throwers in their anti-infantry formation. or version, which do these cluster shots. It's pretty cool artillery. Not the longest range though. So against the old races, there are going to be a lot of counters to these Reaper bolt throwers. And by old races, I mean the races from Warhammer 1. These poor Saurus with shields just getting peppered. I believe the cold ones should be reaching the edge of the forest, or not. Never mind that. Listen, I didn't control this part of the battle. I don't know what the strategy is. We're just here for the pretty shots. All I know is that they are taking their sweet time. Those Pterodon riders are actually taking the anti-infantry version of the shots in their face. Whoa, there we go. I wonder if they should have went with the anti-large version. Right there you can see Murderous Prowess is already being procced by the Dark Elves. That is the buff that all Dark Elves have, I should say. Let me actually hover over this so we can see what it is. I don't know what their buffs are here. Alright, so when Murderous Prowess procs, which to do that, a certain amount of enemies have to die in the battlefield, so I think it's going to be really good in free-for-all. You can see it's already procced, and that's because I've been killing Skaven, which is why it's proccing right now. But you can see they get Leadership, Melee Attack, Charge Bonus, Armor Piercing Damage, and Vigor. And I believe their Greatsword Infantry, which this player does not have, it's a little different because that one also adds Fear to their Greatsword unit. The Executioners, I believe they're called. But the normal Martial Prowess that most Dark Elves have is this version. And I think, again, the only difference is the Greatswords, which have an added bonus of Fear. You see Flock of Doom going on the Dark Shards there? Or Dread Spears, sorry. And for this part, I just kind of want to watch this. Watch the dinos crash into these Spear Infantry. Enjoy the view. There you can see one of the Ferrobasilodons have already gone into their rage. When they receive enough damage, they go on a rampage, which means you can no longer control them. They are not immune to leadership at that point. You can see this one is about to break. It's just that you cannot control them anymore. That is the risk you take at taking any kind of feral dinosaurs. You can see the Saurus Warriors up here are already being hit by rampage as well. And the leadership is already breaking. They have just been taking a pummeling from these Dark Shards back here with their anti-armor. They are perfect for killing the dinosaurs. You can see they've been targeting the Ferrobasilodons. The Basilodons and most of the dinos have very, very high armor, but these are armor-piercing crossbow infantry, so they are really good if you do not kill them. Really good at killing your dinos. And I'm not entirely sure what happened to the music. It is gone. That's weird. And unfortunately, these Saurus Warriors have taken so much damage coming in because of the Reaper Bolt Throwers that the Dread Spears are actually going to be able to hold them off, and they are going to be breaking here soon as well. And you can see that my army is now gathering because we've already broken the Skaven, and we're going to be hitting these Dark Elves from the back.
Our sorcery is majestic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally forgot to talk about the Shades that they had. Shades. Real quick. These are really cool. There are 3 different variants of the Shades. These are going to be just the normal ones, which have decent melee stats. There are also dual wielding, which are bonus versus infantry, and then great swords, which are bonus versus infantry and armor piercing. But they are very expensive. But they are really good, highly damaging crossbow infantry that can stalk. And then there are, again, 3 different versions of them, so you can bring one for any kind of situation. Very expensive, but pretty damn cool unit. You can see they're firing into the cold ones, which are riding around the flanks right now. A lot of cool new units in this game, especially when it comes to high elves, or elves in general. So right now you can see that the Mage Priest went into melee against this Death Hag and the Anti-Large and Malekith. And listen, the Mage Priests, they're not really built for melee. They're kind of a caster, so maybe don't do that. Because they're going to die pretty quickly. Pterodon Riders, you can see they're targeting the Dark Shards. But remember, The Dark Shards do have a missile block chance because they do also have shields. But now I am going to be coming in. You can see that my Lothar and Sea Guard are targeting the Dark Shards. Star Dragon going into one of their Reaper Bolt Throwers. Teclis and crew is coming up as well. And our Illyrian Reavers, which are still fresh because I didn't need them before. And so I'm going to just try and get as much damage as I can here. You can see we've already routed off one of the Reaper Bolt Throwers. And at this point, the Lizardman army has taken just such a heavy beating. You do see that there are still some units on the field, but for the most part, they have been taken out by the Dark Elves. I am just going right through the Blackguard and Nagaran trying to get into these shades because I know that they have the armor-piercing bolts, and that is very deadly for me. But also at the same time, the Golden Riders are coming in as well, so I'm just going to be like, well, I can see this. We're busy here, so we're just going to leave. Over here, Teclis and crew routing off one of the Dark Shards with shields. Lothar and Sea Guard still relatively untouched. Here come our Illyrian Reavers to try and go into another one of the Reaper Bolt Throwers. Meanwhile, we have another Chain Lightning going on these Cold Ones and the Blackguard of Nagaran. Another cast from Teclis. They are going to retaliate with a Blade Shard spell, but it's not really going to hit much. Besides, oh, I guess it did hit my Lothar and Sea Guard, what I'm saying. That kind of did do a lot of damage. As you say. But I'm just trying to dodge these Halberd Infantry with my Star Dragon and my large units being Teclis and the Nobles. So we're just kind of trying to keep our distance. Ooh, that was a good spell. Oh, gosh darn. A good spell from the Slant Priest. A lot of stuff is happening right now. I'm doing my best to try and keep my Sea Guard out of the main combat and just raining death on any and all units. Right here, Teclis and the Nobles are trying to kill this Skink Priest, along with my White Lions. Illyrian Reaver is still just causing havoc amongst the Dark Shards who are being chased by the Sword Masters of Hoth. We're also going to do more damage to the Reaper Bolt Throwers. The two Cold Ones got destroyed by the Blackguard and Nagaran because they are Halberd Infantry, and that's kind of what they do. We have now routed off the Skink Priest and what is left of the Lizardmen faction. So now we're going to have to focus on the Dark Elves. So we're going to get the Star Dragon, Teclis, and the Nobles on Malekith. Who's going to take a massive amount of damage from all four of these units. There goes our second cast of the Phoenix spell on these Blackguards. And I kind of missed because they moved. Unfortunate. But Malekith is definitely having a bad time here. He is not loving life right now. And I think my Illyrian Reavers are going to be going around to try and hit these shades again, I believe. You see my artillery trying to weaken the Blackguards before they meet up with the White Lions. My Swordmaster should be nearby. Oh, I guess they're over there. They were still chasing off the crossbows. And at this point, why not? We would charge the Halberd Infantry, try and pin them in place real quick so we can catch them with the White Lions. And then that is going to be a heroic victory for my first free-for-all. It's a very cool mode, but there's a lot happening, so it's going to be a challenge to cast these because I have no knowledge into what's going on into the heads of the two other players that are having their own little 1v1. So I kind of just got to watch it and react, but. Yeah, a lot of fun. I'm going to have more free-for-alls in the future, but let's also watch a just straight-up cinematic view of this battle, and let me know how you would like these to be cast. We're in a whole new game. If you have a preference on how you like to see your multiplayer matches casted, then let me know. Do you want to see the other 1v1s where my army isn't a part of, or do you want me to just follow my army alone as we traverse around the battle map? Just let me know. I'm up for some feedback. So let's go watch a cinematic view.
If I must.
The High Elves look so cool.
Asa, attack! Acknowledge! By Hoeth! Assyria guides us! Advance!
Trying to get used to their new cinematic camera.
them! Very well. Scython! Hear me! To war! Their end is nigh! Asur, forward! Attack! For order! Ancestors! Destroy them! Understood! Advance! For the king! Advance! Moving out! Swiftly! Move! Loyal! Onward!
God, like, what happened to you?
Asur! Move! Moving out! Sinner! For the king! Moving out! Forward! Seeking the foe! Setting forth! Forward! We go! Obliterate them! Agreed! Setting forth! To battle! Forward! Setting forth! Advance! Scython! Hear me! Seal! Setting forth! the foe! Battle awaits! Setting forth! I go! Forward! Orders understood! Quickly now! Setting forth! You're in there! Onward! As you say! Attack! Sir!
Orders understood.
And there we go. So hope you enjoyed the battle, everybody. Again, just leave your feedback in the comments below. Let me know how you would like to see them cast, and I will take it under consideration. Hope you all have a great day, everybody. Take care.